The car dealership gleamed under fluorescent lights. Rows of shiny SUVs promised adventure and freedom. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. Dealers, once kings of their asphalt kingdoms, were feeling the squeeze. Banks were tightening their grip on lending. Credit lines were shrinking faster than a new car's value. For dealers, it was like a game of musical chairs. Each new car represented a gamble. Would they find a buyer before the financing window shut? The pressure was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. This wasn't just about moving metal anymore, it was about survival. Every deal felt like a hard-fought negotiation. The ground was shifting beneath the car industry, and both dealers and buyers were about to learn a hard lesson. The auction house was a cacophony of sound and fury. Car horns blared, auctioneers' voices echoed, and dealers, their faces etched with a mixture of excitement and desperation, frantically placed bids. A used Honda CR-V, once worth maybe $15,000, was now going for twice that. A Mazda CX-5, barely 3 years old, sparked a bidding war that would make your head spin. This wasn't some rare vintage car auction, this was the new normal. With new car production stuck in low gear thanks to supply chain hiccups, used cars were the hottest commodity on the market. Dealers, starved for inventory, were forced to duke it out, driving up prices to levels that would make your eyes water. The auction block became a microcosm of the larger economic forces at play. It was a stark reminder that scarcity breeds competition, and in this market, the hungriest players with the deepest pockets were the ones walking away with the prize. The laws of supply and demand, once confined to dusty economics textbooks, were playing out in real time, and the impact was impossible to ignore. The luxury car market, once a haven of polished chrome and leather interiors, was facing unique challenges. High-end cars were starting to gather dust on showroom floors. Buyers were now thinking twice about dropping six figures on a depreciating asset. It wasn't just the economy, it was a shift in priorities. The pandemic made people reevaluate what truly mattered. Suddenly, luxury features seemed less important than a secure job and a roof over one's head. The allure of luxury had lost some of its shine. This slowdown had a ripple effect on the entire industry. Dealers were forced to adjust their strategies. The days of extravagant luxury car purchases were over, at least for now. The impact of the credit crunch wasn't confined to the sterile showrooms of car dealerships. It was a domino effect, rippling outward and touching every corner of the economy. Consumers, faced with higher car prices and tighter lending standards, were putting off big-ticket purchases. The dream of a shiny new car, once a rite of passage for many, was becoming increasingly out of reach. This slowdown in car buying had far-reaching consequences. Automakers faced with declining demand were forced to cut production, leading to job losses and factory closures. The transportation industry, reliant on a steady supply of new trucks and vans, felt the pinch as well. The entire economic engine, it seemed, was sputtering. The interconnectedness of it all was impossible to ignore. The car market, once a symbol of American prosperity, was now a reflection of its economic anxieties. The road ahead was uncertain, and both consumers and businesses were bracing for a bumpy ride. Section 5. Navigating the credit crunch. Dealers get creative. Dealers, resourceful as ever, weren't about to go down without a fight. They were adapting, innovating, and finding new ways to navigate the choppy waters of the credit crunch. They were offering creative financing options, partnering with credit unions, and even dipping into their own pockets to offer loans to credit-worthy buyers. Some dealers were focusing on selling certified pre-owned vehicles, which came with lower price tags and often benefited from manufacturer warranties. Others were doubling down on their service and repair departments, generating revenue from existing customers, while new car sales remained sluggish. The car business had always been about more than just selling cars. It was about building relationships, understanding customer needs, and finding solutions. This new era of economic uncertainty tested those skills like never before, but it also brought out the best in those who were willing to adapt. Section 6. The Used Car King. Why it's all about inventory. In this new market reality, inventory was king. Dealers with a healthy stock of used cars, especially in-demand models like SUVs and fuel-efficient sedans, held a distinct advantage. They could command higher prices, negotiate from a position of strength, and keep their businesses afloat while others struggled. This led to a surge in used car values, with some models appreciating in value, defying the traditional depreciation curve. A used car, once seen as a depreciating asset, was now a hot commodity, a potential gold mine on wheels. Dealers who had invested in strong relationships with wholesalers, who had a knack for spotting a diamond in the rough at auction, were reaping the rewards. They understood that in a market starved for inventory, the key to survival was having the right cars at the right time. Section 7. The waiting game supply chain woes linger. While the credit crunch was one headwind facing the car market, it wasn't the only one. Supply chain disruptions, those pesky bottlenecks that had plagued the global economy since the early days of the pandemic, were still wreaking havoc. Semiconductor shortages, factory closures, and shipping delays continued to hamper new car production. Automakers were forced to prioritize their most profitable models, leaving dealers with limited inventory and long wait lists for popular vehicles. These supply chain woes were like a persistent cough, lingering long after the initial illness had passed. They served as a stark reminder that the global economy was a delicate ecosystem, and even seemingly minor disruptions could have far-reaching consequences. Section 8. A New Normal: The Future of Car Buying. The car market was in a state of flux, caught between a credit crunch, supply chain woes, and shifting consumer preferences. What did this mean for the future of car buying? Was this the new normal, or was it just a temporary blip on the radar? One thing was clear: the days of easy credit and abundant inventory were over, at least for the foreseeable future. Consumers would need to adjust their expectations, be prepared to pay more, and be patient when it came to finding the car of their dreams. Dealers, meanwhile, would need to continue to adapt, innovate, and find new ways to serve their customers. The car business had always been a competitive one, but this new era would require a different kind of hustle, one that prioritized relationships, creativity, and a deep understanding of the market. Section 9. Buckle up: tips for dealers and buyers. So what could dealers and buyers do to navigate this new landscape? For dealers, the key was to be proactive, not reactive. This meant staying informed about market trends, building strong relationships with lenders, and finding creative ways to source inventory. For buyers, it meant doing their research, being prepared to compromise, and understanding that the car buying process might take longer than they were used to. It also meant being open to alternative financing options and exploring certified pre-owned vehicles as a way to get more bang for their buck. The road ahead might be bumpy, but with a little bit of knowledge and a lot of patience, both dealers and buyers could navigate the wild world of car buying and come out ahead.